And we're back. It's taken, several months. A controversial Olympics, a quite tepid European Championships. But we're here. We survived. It's summer. We're back. If you want to watch some complete insane people talking absolute nonsense, you could switch on the DNC on CNN. But here on the EPL panel show, American Scouser TV, we talk the sense that people want to know about, such as how bald can Arnie Slot get? How funny are we going to? How much are we going to laugh at Manchester United this year? And how long before Alan's heart is broken again? I'm going to give it February, Alan. Only kidding. We're back again for another season. We're joined by Shay, Alan, and Alex, who I currently have muted or muted himself, one or the other. But it's good to see everybody again. I hope we had good summers. Shay, how are you feeling this week?
Feeling good. Got a big match coming up on Saturday, so I'm sure Alan's ready for it. I'm sure they got it marked in their calendars after going 0-2 last year. So.
Alan, how are you doing?
Feeling good, feeling confident, feeling great about this weekend. See what happens.
And Alex, good to see you again. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Ready for a good year.
It's time for the real stuff. The European Championships was fun, the Olympic Games were fun, but this is the Guinness of soccer now. We get back into the real stuff. So before we start going on about the games that happened in week one, let's talk about we've talked plenty of nonsense, including for a whole 24 hours straight about Liverpool. But we'll talk with each of you about your teams. How Shay, have you felt about Villa's off-season dealings and preparations for the upcoming year?
Yeah, that was good. 2 big hits. Just to see Diaby leave so early was kind of shocking. But, in today's day and age, if somebody's going to pay a bunch of money for somebody, you take the money and run. And then losing Douglas was kind of the FA or whoever it was trying to give us that PSR league or the league stuff. And then we just kind of did some creative accounting, which is nice. And then brought in actual players that I think we wanted and needed. So we actually have depth. So I think that's going to be big for us, especially with the extra games that we have to play.
Alan, Arsenal look like they made some good moves, and the kind of moves that a team that's being built is looking to make, rather than just, a Chelsea, let's buy 5 players and sell 4 the next year. Are you happy with what business was done over the summer?
So far, so good. I think Calafiori is a good pickup. More depth at left back, especially. I feel like that was one of our weakest points. I know with Timber coming back from injury, and then Zinni just being god awful every time and shutting off every time he plays you guys. But I think with Calafiori coming in, it looks like the Marino's coming in either this week or next week before the transfer window ends, and then signing Raya to a permanent deal. I think we're perfectly fine with as far as going on forward towards January at least.
Alex, we'll talk about the games, but I thought Fulham looked very, very healthy. They were in rude health at the weekend, and a little bit unfortunate, I think. But it looks like a team that's ready to go again and to surprise people again and to make fans such as yourself happy again. How happy are you with the summer?
This is a weird feeling for me and for Fulham fans to be approaching deadline day, and most of the business is done. I don't have to worry about a 1 a.m. transfer sheet coming in, but no, I feel pretty good. I think the business that's been done so far has been good, either depth with Jorge Cuenca or starters like Emile Smith-Rowe and
take care of him. Take care of him, please.
And that's the mark. Another podcast talked about. That's the mark of when you've got someone that could be an asset. It can be good for you. Is when the other fan base is sad to see them go for either play or emotional reasons. So, no, it's been a good window, and some business looks like it was done today and should be sealed up soon. So, I'm happy. Feels good.
Let me ask you 3 this. We can go from clockwise again, Shay to Alan to Alex. Just from a non-Liverpool fan's perspective, we've talked it to death, but Liverpool have made no signings, and we're already into week 1, going into week 2. Has that surprised you guys as observers of Liverpool, as an opponent, or do you kind of say, there's the new guy coming in, and Klopp did leave a decent enough squad for him to work with? Or are you looking at it with the objective eyes that we all have as Liverpool fans, and that the as we discussed last week on the Thursday pod, the people that are in charge of our transfers think they're smarter than everybody else on the planet, and they're not.
Yep. It's definitely, kind of crazy to see, when a new coach comes in, they always at least bring 1 or 2 players in. I feel like that's just been the norm for watching soccer this long. But, I mean, like I said, Klopp did leave a bunch of good players, so there's not that worry where hey, I have to completely rebuild. You didn't lose any of the big starters, and, like, they're still young enough. There's a couple old ones, but that'll happen maybe in January once he gets 6 months under him just to see what he wants to do. So I definitely think you'll probably spend in January, maybe just not do it in the summertime, just save up.
That must be a big piggy bank that the Liverpool transfer committee have. It's the same. Alan, what's your opinion of it? It kind of, not to be, a little bit arrogant, but it must be a little bit of relief that Liverpool are going to probably go through a transition period, which kind of just leaves you and City to compete for the top 2 spots realistically. Who knows what's going to happen with this Liverpool team, because they are young, they're talented, but they're still young nonetheless. And it's not a golden generation like that United generation with Beckham and Scholes and Giggs and all that. But it really looks like, even though our kids beat yours in the friendlies that nobody cares about, but it does really look like it's going to be City, Arsenal, and then who knows what's happening after that. Does the lack of transfer dealings give you a little bit more hope that we will maybe just be aiming for top 4 rather than top 2?
No, because like you said, you have a lot of young depth in your team. A lot of the dealings that you have now that were made last year were made for the future. I don't know if they were with Klopp in mind, but I think Arne Slot is going to take the team that he has right now, and it is a little bit surprising that there weren't any changes or no players added on. You would think that a new manager, especially if coming from Feyenoord, that he would want to pick up some of his old players, or maybe try to build the squad that he has now for the title run. I know it's a young team, but that's the case. That they were in a title run last year. Why not be it in this year? So it is surprising, but I think until January, I think you guys are good.
Alex, in terms of the transfers and stuff like that, and the new manager, you guys got a fantastic one for your kind of ambitions, let's say, in Marco Silva. But he was, I think, just without being melodramatic, but Arne Slot was kind of a Marco Silva kind of signing for Liverpool. The fact that he comes from Feyenoord to replace Jurgen Klopp of all managers, does that make you worry a little bit that Marco Silva, if he has yet another good successful year with Fulham, gets picked up at the end of the season for one of maybe the big continental clubs, or maybe the second tier, let's say, and then leaving you back at square one, getting Heckenbottom or the return of Neil Warnock for his 50 million rerun of being a crap manager?
Yeah, is Big Steve still out there coaching? No, I think, that's the constant worry, right? I think that's the constant worry of a club that sits in the pecking order where Fulham does. And I think as a college football fan, I follow a couple different teams, and one of them is at the top and one of them's in the middle. And so the idea is, if a coach leaves and was poached by a bigger club, then the odds are that he left you in a better place than he found you. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for the ownership to bring somebody like that in and catch lightning in a bottle twice. But every year that Marco's been here, at the end of the season, it's like, God, I hope we can hang on to him. And there are rumors that this summer too, Saudi Arabia came calling. It was less dramatic than last summer, but there are rumors again that he said, I'm in. I think I worry less about a continental job. I worry more about a bigger Premier League club. I think he's made it pretty clear this is the best league in the world, and he wants to succeed here. I think especially after what happened previously in the Premier League and in England, I think he wants to kind of stake that flag as he's up there with Unai Emery and Klopp and Pep, all those guys. He's like, I want to be considered there. So he's got work to do to get there. But if he does it with Fulham, then that's great.
I mean, to be fair, he was at a small club at Everton.
Exactly. Tiny club.
Yeah, the worst of the small clubs.
I hope they go down this year.
But they won't. They're like the herpes that never goes away. It's unfortunate. The herpes of soccer. So let's look at the match day 1 games. we'll talk about Man United Fulham because it's Alex's team. Arsenal against Wolves looked like a solid game. We'll talk about that one. And then Villa against West Ham looked a bit tricky. And there's no David Moyes to blame things on again. And then City-Chelsea was the big game of the weekend. And Leicester City yesterday was kind of a surprise. But we'll talk about United Fulham first. And we'll do so, Alex, because I watched that game. It's the first game that I got to watch this weekend due to work. I didn't even get to watch the Liverpool game live. And it was surprising that United got away with it as far as I'm concerned. And my question to you is, if you had better strikers, or if Adama Traore could actually kick a ball in a straight line, that would be a 3-0 game to Fulham on the balance of play, I think. You guys, you didn't take them apart in a controlling sense, but you hurt them in spaces that, bigger teams are probably going to hurt them. Number one, the result, I'm sure, was disappointing, but as it's only the first game, did it encourage you a lot for how good you could be going forward this season?
Yeah, I think that showed a similar pattern to what we've seen when Fulham do play. The bigger clubs is that they can hurt them, they can get on the break, and they can create chances, and they just don't finish enough of them. And we saw that constantly last season. I think this Rodrigo Muniz went through a big purple patch, and everyone said he's the next coming. And he, outside of that, has been kind of ho-hum. He wasn't bad this game. He had decent hold-up plays every now and again, and he just didn't really create a ton. There are a couple moments. We're 2-on-1 against Harry Maguire with Alex Iwobi and Andres Pereira, and he just kicks it straight to Maguire, and that's kind of the story of a couple of moments of the big match. So, it is what it is, and I think does the what Denny Green quote, we let him off the hook. We had him right where we wanted him to let him off the hook. I think it's similar to how Marco Silva manages. Fulham could have easily set up shop in the 80th minute and said, we're done. But they kept pushing. They went for the win. They kept trying to get after him, and a turnover, and then and kind of unchecked run by Xerxes, and they leads to a goal. So, and it was a good goal. It was a good ball in, and he stuck his leg out and connected, and that shit happens. But if we play like that, the season will be as good or better than last year if we continue to play aggressive and attacking like that. So,
it is always that worry, isn't it, when you control a game and then you don't take those chances. It only needs that one near the end, and then the team is crestfallen. Because it's the first game, you can kind of accept that for now. But Alex, did you see enough to know that this is not going to be something that's repeated? Because the Everton game looked like Everton are going to concede like those kinds of goals all season. Yeah. They still won't go down, but they'll be unflushable third for a reason. But they will concede. But Fulham it looked like a very good break on the one time that you guys fell asleep near the end of the game. But other than that, you look like a good, solid, Europa League competing side.
And that's the hope, is to solidify top 10 and then see what happens. And I think the run that Xerxes made, again, kind of unchecked there, that's the kind of run that João Palhinha blows up. And that's the kind of run where he sticks his leg in and he flies out of nowhere, or he checks him off his line. Something happens. I think Sasha Lukic, kind of playing in that similar defensive mid role, didn't embarrass himself, but he was kind of invisible. And which is honestly better than you could hope for. Just say, I'd rather you just be invisible than screw up. So I'll take it. And maybe I'm being too harsh, but until we figure out how to play without Palhinha, and is that Sasha Lukic and Harrison Reed combining? Until Marco Silva figures out really what that looks like, it'll be a little awkward at times, and you just kind of hope to have to ride it out. Now, luckily, Fulham, I think, have the second easiest start. So after this, it's Leicester this week, at Ipswich the next. I can't remember who after Bournemouth, I think, or Everton come up. So it's a pretty easy, comfortable start, and hopefully they can pick up some points and kind of forget about this one.
Alan, from a Gunners perspective, with United being the rival against United for so long in at least the early 2000s, but there's those things linger. Like Everton are a non-entity in real football terms, but that's the local derby for Liverpool, so those things linger. Yeah. Were you surprised at how bad United were?
No, I'm not surprised. Ten Hag in. United.
Yeah.
4 more years of the guy. I mean, we're talking election terms. Why not?
Yeah.
But no, they were lucky to get out of there with 3 points. Even at home against Fulham. Fulham, again, not an easy side. I'm never going to disrespect Fulham. They are one of the teams that, beat us and, took the title away from us as well. So along with Villa and Newcastle.
Yeah.
Along with the rest of Newcastle. But anyways, but again, like United is just bad. It's badly managed. He's trying to bring in all his Ajax players, except for Timber, because Timber knows what's right. And it's a poorly managed squad. This isn't going to be sustainable down the road.
And Shay, just kind of for your perspective, watching it being such a shambles, because they do look like one of the least coached teams in the league, and yet you're sitting there watching Unai Emery, who's a really good tactician and has your team organized, like more organized, I think, as we mentioned before, than you have been in years. Your players go out and they know exactly what they're going to do. Doesn't always guarantee a win, but it's better to lose with players looking like they know what they're supposed to do than, I think, winning and the players are clueless, because that's going to fall apart at some time. Does it make you happier that you have the manager you have rather than the flavour of the month, which was Ten Hag at the time?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, when you actually have a coach that has a vision and can actually get the tactics come out, it's always nice. That's for any team in any league. So it's nice to see. And like how you said, we went from watching Gerard Ball, which was like, oh, we're going to go in all these matches scared. And then here comes Emery in the next month and does the same with the exact same team. And it's like, oh, hey, I'm actually going to get you into shape and be a professional athlete. But when I saw the lineup that they put out, just seeing Bruno up top was mind-boggling to me. Like, never seen him play striker, and Rashford has played striker before. I was like, how are you as a professional manager going to put a lineup like that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, and they can say they don't have depth and all that. It's United. They got plenty of money to go buy people. They're just they're like Chelsea when it comes to spending. They just buy stupid. So we'll see if they pull out a striker in the next coming weeks. I doubt it. I think they'll just let it ride. But I mean, if that's what they're going to roll with, it's going to be a tough couple weeks for him. So definitely everybody needs to take advantage of it while they can.
They're probably going to bring back Dimitar Berbatov. So let's move on to Alan for the Arsenal Wolves game. Let me just double check. Yeah, Arsenal was at home, 2-0 win. I mean, that's fairly standard opening day fare. Was there anything that you saw that disappointed you? Anything you saw that made you go, oh, I want to see a bit more of that for the rest of the season? Or was it a case like Wolves should be favourites to be in that relegation battle? I think they're due it at some point. But was that just like, just a statement of, the new season, old season's done, new season started, we pick up where we left off, and we're going to go and challenge for that title again?
I think as far as like positives that I saw in the match, Bukayo Saka looks like a brand new signing, honestly. He looked like a killer in that game. He made the assist to Havertz. He made the spectacular goal later on in the match to make it 2-0. He is looking good. The midfield is looking solid. The only thing that looked shaky at times was in around and this happens almost quite a bit against I don't want to disparage Wolves at all, but lower level opposition is that the defense kind of shuts off around the minutes. 40, from the 50th to the 60th to the 70th minute, they kind of shut off and then let them back in a little bit. And Wolves did get a little pressure in, and they did get almost some clean chances on us. Yeah. But I just need the entire team to just build a new killer mentality, and we'll be fine.
Tell me about your impression of Odegaard, because he got a lot of praise over the weekend. He's maturing. I remember, was it 2 years ago that he became the captain, or was it 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't convinced. He just looked immature for the role, but he's grown into it, hasn't he? He's become a genuine captain.
I agree. I'm actually on the same boat as you. I thought he felt that. I felt that 2 years ago when he became captain, I thought it was too early. I thought someone like Tierney, who would ask for the position of captain, like before that, and mentioned it in his interview when he signed his new contract, was going to get it. He's a lot more mature at the time, but honestly, Odegaard has matured and has become even the captain of Norway. It's taking it over Holland, of course, and he's definitely like an amazing player. He has gone from this wonder kid at Real Madrid who may have been a wash up, everyone may have praised him too early, to signing on permanently for Arsenal and just has become a steal, honestly. Like, could you imagine this Odegaard right now with Mbappe?
It reminds me a little bit of Jordan Henderson, who also kind of had a similar doubt about him when he became Liverpool captain, because he was a bit of a hard man in old money. I always loved that clip of him standing up to Diego Costa at Chelsea, and Diego Costa backing away, which was not a thing that usually happened. But he just didn't. He looked like a 10-year-old boy who just got his pocket money and spent it on becoming a Liverpool player. Just bought his way onto the team. But he became one of our best captains of the modern era.
Yeah.
Do you have a feeling that Odegaard will be that kind of a player that, if you do win the league under Arteta, he's literally going to be the talisman for that, rather than, let's say, the more flashy players, the more obvious attackers?
I feel that way about him. If we do end up winning the league, whether this season or next season, with Odegaard on the team, he's going to be looked at as that guy, as the man that led Arsenal there. We have our young players like Saka, and we also have Declan Rice, but I think the mainstay and the leadership goes through Odegaard, and everything about him just exudes leader of men. Honestly, he's a great captain. Honestly,
sorry, so go ahead. Yep.
No, I was going to say, honestly, he's young, and just to take it to a hockey's perspective, from the NHL, the Blackhawks, when they gave Jonathan Toews the captain's patch, he was very young as well, and then led them to 3 Stanley Cups. So let's see if this happens over here.
You can see why I have no hair, because everything just goes. No idea about hockey. Alex, let me ask you a question about Odegaard, because he was doubted. He was that wonder kid. I remember when he was a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. Pretty much the whole soccer world was raving about him in the same way Freddie Adu was raved about. And he kind of looked like he may have been going on a similar path, but he has revived his career. Is that a lesson for clubs like Fulham to maybe find a market for those players that don't fulfill their promise at the bigger clubs, that maybe a club like Fulham is a chance to reestablish your reputation, and that's a good way to get yourself to where you want to be, which also benefits Fulham in the meantime?
Yeah, I think that is the reputation that Marco Silva has started to really cultivate, is bringing guys like this in. I think in some ways it's paid off. I think we're still waiting on some of the folks like Adama Traore. The idea is, man, we can bring him in and put a little finishing on him and shine him up, and he's going to be good to go. I mean, I hope you all watched him absolutely cook Lisandro Martinez for the first touch he took. It was chef's kiss. But yeah, that's the idea, is that Marco Silva can take guys like Traore, can take guys like Raul Jimenez and folks like that and rehab, for lack of a better word, and bring them back up to standards so Fulham can sell on. It's still early in the project. I think this is year 4 of Silva, 3 in the Premier League. So that's the idea. That's the hope. And again, like I said about managers, if they get sold on or they get bought up by a bigger club, but they scored 30 goals in 4 years, okay, I'll take it. So yeah, it's not a bad trade-off.
Do you think the Fulham owners actually made a mistake and somebody told them to invest in oil, so they just bought Adama Traore?
Yeah, they have actually. He does have a baby oil business on the side. He looked less greased up on Friday. I don't know. Maybe
that's why he wasn't as fast.
I honestly, yeah, he got by Martinez once, and then he just didn't see the oil. I don't know. He looked less greasy, but.
Shay, here's the question I want to ask you. I'm convinced that Villa will be solid top 4 challengers, and especially Liverpool have a dip and there's a gap in there. I don't think it's going to be United. I don't think it's going to be Chelsea. I think they're going to be suffering again under Maresca. We'll talk about that later. When you see Arsenal's performance and their result against Wolves, do you think it's something for Villa to either aspire to or something to worry about in terms of like rivalry? Because if there is a shortfall anywhere, Villa should be the team that's properly placed to take advantage, shouldn't they?
Yeah, like I said, it's about being consistency. So now this is where Emery has to, solidify his his legacy, and then just for us to maintain consistency. Like, the players that we've had have been there for a long time. He's brought in a few new ones that have been in the club before that we've brought back from previous loans, or like we sold them and brought them back, and then bringing in 2 players that are potential to be like that Douglas Luiz or better. So it's more about consistency. This weekend is going to be a big test, just early for both teams. I mean, it's the first big time match that they're going to have to play, so they're going to go all out and get to see new lineup for Villa, new lineup for Arsenal. So we'll see what happens. But I just want to maintain, like, hey, I'm going to tell you now, like I did last EuroLeague data predictions, top 6, I'll be okay.
We'll stick with you, Shay. So West Ham against Aston Villa, almost like a Spanish armada of soccer there, like Spanish league. But it looked like it was a tight game, a different type of game, I'm sure, from West Ham than everybody would be used to under Moyes. But that's West Ham almost look like they're copying your model by bringing in a top class manager from a few years ago and bringing him into the English league and giving him a chance to do a job. Did you have any concerns about your side of the game against West Ham, or was it just a case of game number 1, West Ham under new manager, the players had to do something to impress him?
A little bit of both. So, I think we were 0-3 against West Ham opening matches of the last couple of years. So, I went in the game, I was like, maybe we'll get a point. Just just not a loss like we've had. And then with them, they have spent really well. Like, they brought in a lot of good talent. I think they are following that mold of what we did. They just reinvested all the Jack Grealish money properly. What they did with Declan Rice, brought in a lot of depth that they had, didn't lose anybody big, and then, like I said, bringing in this coach that's had success back in the day, and kind of dipped or kind of fell off, and is like, hey, here's a new shot. We're giving you all the tools to do it. So the first couple of minutes, I think like the first 20 to 30 minutes, we actually did really well. And same thing, it's just players getting back up to speed. Like, we should have probably scored 2 or 3 in the first half, get that one at halftime, and then second half, same thing, like how Alan said, the 40-56, you get that little bit of shut off and they forget, and that's when the teams come back. So it was a little nerve wracking, and then in the end you get the game winning goal. So it was good to see, like I said, that whole new midfield, because we're not going to see the same Douglas Luiz or John McGinn lineup now, but having Yuri Tillemans and Onana, who have played together in the Belgium national team, is going to be massive. So like, there's going to be a lot of chemistry that we don't have to rework on. So it's exciting times.
Alan, in terms of Villa challenging in the top 4, obviously the games become a bit more spicy when they play against the likes of Arsenal, against Liverpool, City, and then Newcastle. Maybe they'll be the team that's challenged for a spot. Is there anything about Villa that worries you as an Arsenal fan when you do come to face them, or are you comfortable that Arsenal has that, a little bit more quality, but also a little bit more experience together as a team and a bit more battle hardened, so to speak?
I can sit here and say that I'm not worried, but again, I do know what happened last year, and losing 6 points to Villa, again, is things you can point out to why Arsenal haven't won the league last year. But that being said, as Villa is growing and being tough, so is Arsenal. So I'm hoping that we can shake off a lot of the bad mojo that's out there with Villa and just go out and win for please God, why? Why not?
Alex, let me ask you this about West Ham. They would be another team that's competing for top 10. They should be expecting it under Lopetegui, because if he's hovering around the relegation zone, he's kind of failing for the reputation he has. So assuming they have a half decent season at least, is that a team for you to watch that you have to make sure you're matching the results of and taking at least the home points and drawing the away points in the 2 games against them? Or do you think West Ham will just be West Ham and you just literally, you could throw a bunch of dice out there and you'll get as many random combinations as you will scores?
Yeah, I mean, I think my head is saying that we'll have to kind of, at least until proven otherwise, kind of watch what the Hammers are doing. But yeah, there's a very real chance that they're shit and will play like that for much of the year. So this first month or two, we'll see. I mean, to bring it to that match day, I don't know how Paqueta is still allowed to play on a football pitch. I think with the allegations and like kind of some of the proof out there, I don't really understand how that's happening. And for him to score is kind of like, what are we doing here? But about West Ham in general, yeah, I think until further notice, they're one of those clubs in there that could be in that 7 to 13 range. So yeah, we'll watch them for sure.
In terms of there's Mikel Arteta, there's Lopetegui, there's Unai Emery, there's Pep Guardiola. Is it too early to say that the Spanish influence on football is dead yet? Anybody, please tell me we're done with it.
Like we're gonna bring the Spanish player into the pace of the Premier League, and they've taken over like crazy. And I like to see it. We're getting to see something.
All I can say is that we know that a Spanish manager is going to win the league this year.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a decent prop bet.
Yeah.
You mean Arnie Slotto?
I don't know if Arnie can be.
So let's do what we need to always do when we're on the EPL panel show. Let's laugh at Chelsea. 2-0 against City at home. Maresca's first game. Now, one of the things that if I was a Chelsea fan, that I would be concerned about is now Brendan Rodgers gets some stick off of us on the podcast as the next Liverpool manager, but he's done a fantastic job at Celtic and he did a great job at Leicester. He knows how to coach and he's won things, but he is guilty of that kind of overplaying of the ball, which is the thing I was kind of half joking about there in the previous section. But just the idea of just pass, regardless of what the situation is. And Maresca is of that ilk. Chelsea they had, I thought, enough of that with Graham Potter and then brought in Pochettino, who's a bit more directed, a bit more high pressure. But they looked lost at times against City, and there wasn't even a good City performance. Alex, what do you think? I mean, we're going to say City are going to be up there. They just look like City. Haaland looks like he wants to score goals, so that's always a bad sign for everybody. But are Chelsea going to be looking at another tough season, another manager, and then spending more money on another 10 players?
Yeah, I read something that none of the 12 players that Chelsea signed this window were even in the squad. What are we doing? Like, I think I read that their entire roster is like 50 players, 52 players, something like that.
42 players.
42. There it is.
Jesus.
What are we doing? Like, none of it's just it's bad. I read an article today too. I think it was in Athletic about, maybe it was ESPN, about when Todd Boehly came in, and the headline was something like after Abramovich was forced to sell and Todd Boehly came in, like what's been happening, and like it's been shit. And literally, if you look back at Boehly's time there, we gave Boehly a lot of stick last season, and it looks like more of the same. I think a big criticism under Potter and even before that was that they had 11 guys on the field who are individually pretty good and really talented players. Mudryk is just run out there with his head cut off, and none of them do anything together. So they're just kind of running around. Now you've introduced this passing, like you said, where we're just zipping it around, but none of them are actually doing anything. And then you have Raheem Sterling just at home putting out press releases like, hey, I'd like to still play. Anybody? The whole thing is very bizarre. I'm here for it fully. I support everything that's happening. Maresca in, and I'm a big fan.
Shay, do you think Todd Boehly has looked at NFL too much and thinks there's an actual defense team and offense team in soccer, and that's why he's buying so many players?
He honestly, it's crazy because you have that stigma of like, all the Americans don't know, but then you have the ones that are running clubs properly, and you have this guy just come in. We're gonna run it just like I said, just like a football team. We're gonna have 52-man roster and then make cuts. I was like, I don't think he realizes that you can only pick 22 senior players, so that these 20 other guys are just going to be sitting there. And I was having this conversation, with my family, just talking about like how much money they've spent, and like they're almost hoarding talent, and it's kind of bad because there's some of these players that are really good. We're never going to see them. Prime example, they just bought 2 kids from Villa, that Carney Chukwuemeka. he's over here trying to leave, but nobody's going to pay $120,000 a week to take him on loan. And I just laughed. And like I tweeted the other day, I was just like, well. I was like, he wanted to leave thinking he was going to start for Chelsea. He hasn't made a senior appearance in a long time. And they just bought that Omari Kellyman kid from us too. Another $20 million, like an absurd year contract. I'm pretty sure he's on like 8 years. Probably getting paid another $100,000, and he just turned 18. Like
goalkeepers,
it's wild to me, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's like 6 keepers on their 40 whatever man squad.
Crazy. And then today, I don't know if everybody saw, but they apparently approved to get João Felix. I was like, who are you going to sell to get João Felix? And you've already saw him in Chelsea once with a plethora of managers, and now you're going to bring him in, who has struggled everywhere he's been at. Like, he still has all the talent in the world, but I don't know. He just doesn't. I don't know if he's got that edge. So it's going to be fun to see, because I also think by January they're going to have a new coach. Like, Pochettino was the one for them, and I just don't think Bowley liked his just like, hey, this is not what you're supposed to do. It's not like it's not how you run a soccer team. Because I think same thing with that Athletic article where I saw it. There's like saying like how Bowley wanted to, walk into the locker room and talk to the players and all that. I'm like, I don't think that's what owners in soccer do. Like, that is a very Americanized way of owning things. It's like Jerry Jones walking to the Cowboys. What are you doing, Dak?
And that's weird. That's weird. That is weird. So like we accept it because we're like, Jerry Jones. But
Can you imagine, speaking of the Americanizing of sports in other leagues outside of America, can you imagine if Chelsea, which won't happen under Bowley, but if they do ever win the league, can you imagine him walking up and doing the trophy celebration and lifting the trophy first, because that's what they do here in America?
Yep. They give it to the owner. Here's your Super Bowl trophy, and then they give it to the captain, and they give it to the MVP. I'm just like, Bowley.
I've never understood that. That's like, hey, you got lots of money.
I don't understand it either.
First. Alan, let me ask you this. Apparently, I just looked there. Sterling has been left out of the European squad for the Europa Conference playoff. There was a point in time, correct me if I'm wrong, where Sterling was linked with Arsenal. He was at one point a very Arsenal-type player. Mm-hmm. Would he be a player you would look at now, or is he past the sell-by date for you guys?
There's something to be said about needing someone that can probably play in a position that can relieve Saka later down the road. I mean, Sterling would have definitely been a shout like 3-4 years ago when he did make the move, but now, as far as like a starter, no. But as a bench player that can come off and relieve Saka, because we all know how many minutes Saka played last year, and the talks of him probably playing injured towards the end, I can see that for Arsenal, but not as a starter. No.
And would he want that role? I don't think
exactly. I don't think he would.
If he was smart, he'd do what Ashley Young did. Hey, when he left Villa, he was really good attacking, goes to United, does really well, and starts to slow down a little bit. Yeah. He was like, hey, I'm going to take a change of pace. I still want to play. He was still very fit. He's like, I'll move to left wing back at Inter, and then comes back to Villa for the second stint. And look how well he did as a 39-year-old man. Like, he was old, playing with all these young kids that are way faster. So I still think Raheem has it. It's Chelsea's just been such a disaster. Like I said, if he goes to an Arsenal, like Alan was saying, I think he would thrive again, just because he still has all the talent in the world. He's only 29, so it's definitely not running him off. He still has it. I
mean, true. It's like we're talking about him like he's 35.
Send him to the glue factory. He's done.
Alex, before we move on to the next one that we laugh at, do you think we should all have a sort of intervention? The entire soccer world have an intervention and a GoFundMe for the people who wash the kits at Chelsea, because that seems like it's now overtime. 42 sets of kits.
Where do they sit? Do they sit behind the bench? Like, do they
on
all
laps? They sit on laps.
They're gonna. I mean, they must be sending them over the PSR limits just on the sheer cost of family and friend tickets alone. Like, that's got to send them over. We love watching this. This is fantastic.
It is. It's good entertainment. So let's go again. I mean, there's like Everton lost to Brighton 3-0 and got a red card. That's always a good thing. Forest and Bournemouth, a kind of a nothing game. Brentford Palace, a nothing game again. Newcastle Southampton 1-0 with a red card. I'm still not convinced by Newcastle, and I don't know if they made the right moves. But the one that we want to talk about is Leicester City and Spurs 1-1 on Monday afternoon for us in Eastern Seaboard, as they say somewhere. But what I want to talk about, Shay, is the enduring presence of Jamie Vardy. He has to be as old as me almost, but he's still putting the ball away into the net. He's still, I like him. I like his personality. I like that he likes to rub people up the wrong way from the opposition. I think that's a good quality to have. Reminds me a bit of John Aldridge back in the day, who was very good at that. But is the Leicester story going to end with Jamie Vardy?
I mean, I would like to see the writing wall. Like I say, I love Jamie Vardy. He is the ultimate just piss everybody off, because the fact that he literally came into the league at such an older age and has been elite the entire time. And, you know, as a fan of England, watching that happen, like, it's crazy how it could have been different if we weren't so reliant on Harry Kane. Because imagine if Jamie Vardy was starting at the time. He's a crackhead. I hate to say, like, I love how he's like, yeah, I drink nothing but red wine and Red Bulls. And you can see it happen. Like this match, for example, they were down. He crushes a Red Bull before walking on the pitch, scores. And then literally looks to the Spurs fans. He's got one of these. Y'all had 0. I was like, I love it. Like, that is hilarious. And I know all the Spurs fans were just pissed off, and people were just like, oh, to hell with Jamie Vardy. I was like, everybody wishes they could have a strike like that. And the fact that he has never left, like, there has been plenty of time where, imagine if United would have gotten him. He would have thrived. If Spurs would have bought him, he would have thrived. Same with Liverpool, like any of these big clubs at the time, and he never did it. He has stayed with them the whole time, and, you know, he became their club legend. And I still think he'll probably score about 15 goals this year just to do it. And that just shows, like, hey, this guy has been elite, and he will always be probably one of the best Premier League strikers of all time. He's 35 years old, and who would have known?
Alan, it's good to see that kind of loyalty. Arsenal was always a club that had players that would stick through thick and thin. Is Jamie Vardy one of the last of a dying breed?
I think so. I think he's definitely someone that is, you know, he's definitely, well, he's not one club, you know, football player, but at the same time, you know, he's been with Leicester since the championship, all the way back up, back down, won the league. And it's impressive, and he is by far one of the best and most legendary strikers of the league. Bigger than Harry Kane, better than Harry Kane. He's absolutely would. And the fact that he's this shithouser too is I love him for it. I hate it when he does it to us, but I love him when he does it to everyone else.
Alex, that's a good contrast though, because Harry Kane you would have thought would have been a one club man, but decided he didn't like not winning trophies, so he went to Bayern Munich to not win trophies.
Didn't win a trophy.
So is that a case of, you know, like, Harry Kane is the darling of the British soccer media. Jamie Vardy was always a bit of a tearaway, a bit controversial, but if you could choose either of those two strikers that to become in their prime a Fulham striker, miraculously through some sort of weird time machine involving Hugh Jackman and the other lad, Christian Bale, who would you pick? Would you pick Vardy or would you pick Kane?
Okay, so, I mean, based off the way Fulham have set up in the last, I don't know, several years, even going back to Scott Parker and Marco, Harry Kane kind of fits the mold of a big, but also surprisingly mobile striker who's able to play off. So in that regard, I'd probably pick Harry Kane, but it'd be a hell of a lot more fun to have Jamie Vardy. I mean, Jamie Vardy is the shithouse that Neil Maupay thinks he is. I think Neil Maupay is kind of phony about it, and like just there's a way you can to cross the line, and not in a like offensive way, just in like that wasn't very funny and original way. And Neil Maupay is always on the wrong side of that line. I'm like, dude, you're trying too hard at this. Whereas Vardy just isn't. He's not trying. He just is this way.
That guy.
He is. He absolutely is. And I think to go so yeah, for vibes, we're going with Jamie Vardy, especially having been a fan of a club that was up and then down and then back up, to see him ride through that. I don't know how many folks were busting down Leicester's door to sign a 34-year-old Jamie Vardy when they went down. But still, I'm sure he had options, and just to ride with Leicester in the championship and then come back up is cool.
Especially after they won the league. Like, I'm surprised nobody tried to put in bids for him, and like, the fact that he stayed loyal through all of that, where you see
I'm sure they did.
Decimated.
Yeah.
You see N'Golo
sure
and
he's like, I don't want to go anywhere.
leave. You see the whole team go, and he's like, nope, I'm going to stay.
I'm gonna stay and bring him back up again
for 2 years until they. I mean, when as soon as the manager or like the owner died, I think that's when all of Leicester changed. Just everything went under afterwards, and it was a sad thing to see because, like, hey, they cemented their place as a top 6-7 club because, like, hey, they were going to win it on grit. So.
I think Vardy and Steve Cooper are the 2 reasons that I think Leicester could genuinely stay up this year. I don't think they're very good. I think this is an excellent result, all considering, for them against Spurs, but I don't think they're very good. But those 2 guys on just piss and vinegar alone have a chance to keep them up.
Do you think it's possible that Todd Bowley will try and buy Jamie Vardy?
On an 8-year deal.
Yeah. On an 8-year deal.
8-year, $200 million deal for reason. That guy scored.
Try and put him in the youth squad.
Yeah. Make appearances for the Dodgers as well. And
Who says no?
Yeah.
So let's look ahead to the games for this weekend. Brighton and United away. That could be a tricky one. Spurs and Everton. That could. I'm not going to say it's not going to go either way. It's going to be a Spurs win. City against Ipswich. Fulham against Leicester is the one we're going to talk about. Villa and Arsenal, because you 2 lads are involved in it. And I think Liverpool-Brentford should, for all intents and purposes, be just like the Ipswich game. Not a procession or anything like that, but Liverpool, we look like we have enough about us that we should be able to put these kinds of teams away. It's just,
Brentford will be at the bottom too. They'll be towards
they're going to be down there. So we'll start with the Fulham game. You guys have Leicester City at home. From what you've seen against Spurs, and with all the conversation we just had about Jamie Vardy and Steve Cooper there, Alex, how do you see that game going for you?
10-0. We're going to smash him. Vardy sucks. He's washed. He's old. Steve Cooper's terrible. No, I think this is a type of match, especially after kind of a tough ending up at Old Trafford, where I think you'd like to see a response. And I think you'd like to see Fulham come back at home, score a couple goals, keep a clean sheet, kind of get back to what Fulham have done really well in this 2 years back in the Prem, is beat the teams they're supposed to beat. And so last year was a little bit of a mix of a few punching above, but really being consistent about beating the teams that are below you. And I think this is a good chance to do that and kind of reset. I think some of the guys that have come in recently, so Sander Berge has been, I think he's medical today, and for that defensive mid role. And then Joachim Anderson from Palace has been heavily linked. I don't think they'll be back in time to participate in this match, but this should be the last match before everybody gets bedded in. So it's hunker down for these 2. Luckily, again, I don't think Leicester are going anywhere this year. So this should be 3 points.
The transfer window ends this Friday, is it, or is it next Friday?
I think it's next Friday.
Next Friday. Okay. Yeah. So let's move on we'll go to Shay first, and then we'll go to Alan to finish up on that side. It's Villa against Arsenal. Shay, now obviously on this show, and I'm back next week, so I hope you 2 are back as well. Bragging rights is an important thing on these shows. But how do you see the game going? Because right now I couldn't pick a winner between the 2. I might say Arsenal might shade it, but Villa is very tactical.
Yeah, as a Villa fan, obviously I wanted to win it, but the 2 last year were a dream, and it's just funny just to be the reason why they couldn't win it. After, I'm not saying Alan's one of them, but you see all the other Arsenal fans just completely dog Emery for no reason, for stuff that he had out of his control, and they didn't give him the time. And they're still very petty about it. I don't know why. It's crazy. But I'm hoping, maybe let's do a 1-0 win. Just, it's going to be a shootout, I have a feeling, just because they're both going to go at it. And I think it's just going to come to experience of the manager, whichever one can get the tactics right and have his players do it. So let's go 1-0. Villa.
You ended that with 1-0 Chelsea. Arsenal. That's what you ended that with.
Yep.
Alan, and obviously you were talking about the 2 games last year. Sometimes a team has a hoodoo over a manager, and it doesn't matter what kind of game you play. They just have the run on that team. Like, I made a joke during the preseason that, like, when Arne Slot plays Arsenal, he should just put the kids out, because the kids just seem to beat Arteta, but the senior players don't. So you should just stick the kids in it, like the under 8s. We should just put the under 8s in the League Cup against and see what happens. But is this a game, from your point of view, do you think there's an extra bit of spice for Unai Emery whenever he brings Villa to play Arsenal? And if so, does that make him doubly determined to make sure that he at least doesn't lose, and that he also causes Arsenal a bit of pain? Not so much the fans. I think the fans reacted very well to him when he was there, but more the leadership up above him that said, thanks, but no thanks.
No, the fans did not like him either.
Oh, did they not? Okay, weirdos.
I mean, it was a tough time. What can we say?
That's true.
Yeah, but no, I think Emery for sure marks this on his calendar every single fucking year, just to be like, I'm gonna show these fuckers what they fucking missed out on. He did it. I think he took us out in the Europa League before with. I think it was Villarreal he was at.
Villarreal.
On that run.
Yeah. And then he ended up winning that league. And then he's come over here back to the Premier League, and he's definitely like had his eye on Arsenal ever since. It's definitely something that he aspires, he lives to show the entire ownership group and everything that he was wrong. That being said, though, bogey teams have to go down every time, you have to win the championship, right? You have to win a title. You have to go through these fucking adverse moments. And this is one of them. And we're going to fucking put them away 2-0 to the Arsenal.
Is this where the title starts? It starts right here.
Today.
Today. This weekend.
All right. I like it. I like it.
I just realised there now when you said Villa, because I completely forgot about Villarreal. Now he's at Aston Villa, and before that he was at Sevilla. He must have something about that word.
Yeah, he's done well with teams that end in Lilla. So.
He's running out with them now, I think, at this point. Here's what I would say, or what I would like to ask Alex, just as another neutral observer like me. Is this going to be a tight tactical battle, or is it going to be a statement of intent if Arsenal wins it?
I think it's hard for these early games to be a tight tactical battle. I think clubs are betting new guys in, and they're, except for Liverpool, and they're kind of figuring out what that's going to look like. And so I think it can be, they can end up a little sloppy, especially defensively, with guys shifting roles and figuring out, do I cover this run? Where do I go? So I think that if this were in December, I'd say, woof, buckle up. I think a 2-0, 2-1 kind of 1-0 vibe fits it, where I would not be shocked if the goal is like a weird sloppy mistake and it just kind of like happens on either side of this. So I would say it'd be entertaining because it's two clubs that are in the same pecking order fighting for this. I wouldn't be shocked if it's not like a tactical masterclass this early.
So let's just end then on two things. Number one, score predictions for your games, and then who do you think is going to win the league? We know Alan's answer, but who do you think is going to win the league at the end of the season? So, Shay, your score prediction for Arsenal Villa this weekend and your overall league winner.
Yep, I'm going 1-0 Villa, and then overall winner. I don't know, it's tough. There's something until the FA finally put a stop to City. I think City's still going to somehow squeak this crap out again. So City 1, Arsenal will be 2, and then it'll be a toss up between 3, 4, and 5.
Alan, I'm sure we don't need to ask you who you think is going to win the league, but what do you think the score is going to be?
I think it's going to be 2-0. I think Arsenal are going to come in, have a killer mentality about it, and put them away for once, especially away from home. And then as far as who's going to win the league, I think I can see Brighton winning the league.
Matoma's up, but he's a beast, man.
They do have James Milner, don't they? That's always a good sign. And City did win their first one until he was on their books,
right?
But I'm assuming you're going to go for Arsenal.
Yep, Arsenal, Liverpool, City, and I forget who else I had at fourth. I think I had Villa at fourth.
Yeah, I wouldn't dismiss that at all. Alex, what's your score for your score prediction for your team and your number one league champion?
Yeah, I think 2-0 Fulham. I think with a more competent strike force, it could have been 3 or 4. I think just betting guys in, I think it'll be 2. I don't think they'll have too much trouble putting Leicester away. And then can I give a bunch of answers and you can cut them? So at the end of the year, you can just like play the clip of me saying the actual winner. I think
Yeah,
so.
we can
Fulham
do-
are going to win the league.
I mean,
You
this
cut
one's
that.
live now, but we can do that for later in the year.
Yeah.
No, I do agree with. What was that?
It's the clips for the future,
Exactly.
Says
No,
Ipswich Town and Ipswich Town wins.
Ipswich, yeah, exactly. No, I do think I agree with Shay. Like until someone actually stops City, it's difficult to pick against them. I think my head says City. My heart might say Arsenal here, and that might be sacrilegious as a Fulham fan. But the funniest thing to happen would be if Spurs pip Arsenal at the line. Can you imagine the team that finally beats City to this thing? Is the team? Oh my gosh! Comedy-wise, that
I don't think anybody wants that to happen.
No one wants
no one
that.
wants it.
I mean, apart from
Comedy-wise.
Liverpool 4 years ago, who beat them to the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
apart from that team,
Yeah, Liverpool did it first. I mean,
Spurs though coming. Oh, it'd be peak comedy, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I mean, to be fair, like at times it feels like we're coming to the end of days, and so Spurs winning the league would probably be a sure sign that we all have to duck and cover and get under the desks.
yeah.
And Postecoglou to stop the Pep and City dynasty would be something.
It would be funny as well because it'd be just like, yeah, what do you mean, mate? Told you I was gonna do it.
One first
Put
couple
some
years now,
strings in the
Arsenal's been right there, and we're like, when is Arsenal going to do it? And then Spurs comes in and does it. We wouldn't see Allen for a few weeks. I don't think.
It would stay on for a while.
You would not see me until the start of the season.
That's fair. No, I think City and Arsenal are up there. Yeah.
I think that's probably about right for now. So, with that said, that's the end of this week's show. We'll be back next week. I'll certainly be here. Alex, we hope, will be here. And then we don't know which of Shay or Alan will not be here on Saturday, Sunday.
I'll be here, win or lose.
And then we will have for our regular viewers our morning
draw.
coffee show tomorrow morning. And then we will have our Thursday show for the technologically unsound of us, which is basically me, Trevor, and Brian. And for everybody else, make sure you're liking us on the socials, on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, and that other one that has a different name that I'm not going to pronounce because it just sounds stupid. But X. I think it's Exeter now, as some people are calling it, and that's just ridiculous. Whoa. And then also follow us on our Patreon because we have all the good stuff there that you don't see for free. Including me making a complete jackass of myself singing songs in Scouse accents. Who needs that? I don't. But just remains to say thanks to Shay, thanks to Alan, thanks to Alex. It's fantastic to see you guys after the long hiatus. Good luck to your teams this weekend, although that seems like a philosophical paradox saying good luck to both Villa and Arsenal. But, I hope you both lose. I think that's the fair side to say.
Could be a draw. Could be a draw.
Yeah. It probably will be now that you said that. But for everybody else, join us again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll see who's crying rivers of tears on this left side here, or whichever side that is for you for you're watching.
It's right side for me.
It should be fun. It should be fun either way for everybody else. So have a good one. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. And we will see everybody next week. If I could, there we go. We've figured it out. Here's the nice music. Not the 70s porn from the Thursday show. We're getting the trap music tonight. Peace out, everybody.